What's up, everybody? If you've been keeping up with this channel, you already know what's about to go down. We're doing another draft profile video. This week, it's going to be Dalton Knecht. Usual drill, folks. Before the video starts, just make sure you're leaving a like on the video. You know it helps the algorithm out a ton, and I do truly appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Plus, if you plan on doing any responsible sports betting in the near future, make sure to check out my link in the description below. Dalton Knecht is an interesting player because there's a lot to like about his game. In particular, I think the most obvious thing to really enjoy when you watch this guy is just his scoring ability. I mean, of course, that's going to be the main selling point for anybody that knows Dalton Knecht. Like, what else was I going to lead with besides for his scoring ability? He is a fantastic three-level scorer. I think he can get it done from behind the line. I mean, he shoots a fantastic percentage. He can very obviously get it done near the rim as well. Like, he's a good finisher, especially for a guard. Like, he has pretty decent size and he definitely uses it well. He can score on any part of the basketball court, and I think that should be fairly exciting for Raptors, especially considering that, you know, bench scoring in previous years has been an issue. And I mean, naturally, I think this guy, in terms of like his career, if he were to be on the Raptors, he's obviously going to start off from the bench. I don't think he's going to be a starter day one by any means. And this is the pro section, mind you. So, oh, that's a mean thing to say in the pro section. That being said, yes, like, I think he's going to be a tremendous scorer. He should be a pretty NBA ready scorer too. So I don't think there's going to be a big wait in terms of, you know, the time it takes for him to adjust to the NBA, which I think is great. Like, somebody that should be able to make an instant impact for the Raptors. In particular, if you're talking about fitting him into the Raptors offense, I think a big bonus of his game and of his scoring game that really lends itself well to Toronto is he's a pretty damn good off-ball player. And I know Darko Ball is gonna love that off-ball movement in theory, of course. I mean, he's not on the team yet, but yes, Darko Ball would love the kind of off-ball movement that Dalton brings to the team. I think two of the things that he does really well that excite me is he's a pretty damn good cutter off the ball, and again, he can finish around the basket, so that lends itself great. He could get a lot of easy buckets that way playing within this system. And on top of that, I think a really fun thing that he's also pretty damn good at is the fact that he's really good at relocating for threes. He's fantastic at kind of just finding his spots off the ball at the three-point line and naturally knocking it down too. Like, again, he shoots a really good percentage from three. So I think those things lend themselves well, really much so for Toronto with Knecht. And then, while I think there's a second part to this that gets covered in the negatives, I will say as a team defender, he's solid. He's pretty good as a team defender. Jumping to the flip side of things, while I do think Dalton Knecht was pretty solid with Tennessee as a team defender, individual defense isn't exactly the same story. For him, I think the big issues lie in the fact that he's just kind of slow-footed and not tremendously talented in that regard. Like, an explosive guard, especially at the NBA level, respectfully, will not really have a lot of issues kind of getting past him. And to be fair, you know, those kinds of guards get past a lot of players. So for whatever that's worth in his defense, like, that's just an issue that he's going to struggle with, much like a lot of NBA pros. He's definitely good enough within the overall framework of a defense that I don't think he's going to be a massive liability by any means, but there should still be some concerns that if this guy gets left on an island guarding, you know, I don't know, off the top of my head, explosive guards like Jalen Green, I don't really like his chances in a one-on-one in that regard, you know, or like, if an Anthony Edwards or something comes at him, like, he's gonna struggle with these guys. Like, he just doesn't really have the footwork defensively to keep up with them. And that's, I think, gonna be the biggest red flag about his game in particular. I think another thing for him is that while he does have moments showing capabilities of being a passer, there's still a lot of work to be done in that regard. I think as it currently stands with the player that he is, he's not going to be really dictating your team's offense. I think he would struggle to some extent, you know, being a primary, I guess, offensive creator as a passer. That being said, if we're talking specifically about the Raptors, you know, I don't think they really would need him to be the primary creator by any means. Like, his role would be a play finisher, and I think he's very capable in that regard. And even off the pick and roll, like, he can get stuff done, but in terms of just pure passing ability, that's definitely not a strength of his, and definitely something that needs improvement. I think he could be fine as kind of like a tertiary or whatever option, and just, you know, a guy that can connect like an extra pass somewhere else. But in terms of his own individual vision and kind of being a play starter in that regard, he's not the most reliable option. And then the big thing with him naturally as well is he would be coming into the league as a 23-year-old. Like, this guy's a senior, so he doesn't really have age on his side in that regard. And while I do think his senior season was very impressive and warrants at the very least a look from any team, quite frankly, especially a team looking for a scoring punch, I definitely think there's maybe some younger players out there with some decent high-end potential that you could talk yourselves into over this guy. Again, I'm individually always a little wary of kind of these older prospects because, you know, they might look good in college, but, you know, they're on the older side and they've matured a lot more and grown into their bodies a lot more. So I think it's kind of natural that, to an extent, like, these guys would be dominating some of the younger guys and, you know, showing results against these younger guys when they already have their more adult, you know, frames and muscle in particular, right? So 23 years old is a touch of kind of like a yellow flag, where you think to yourself, and I really do hate kind of throwing this out there sometimes, but I think it needs to be said to some extent, how much better of a player is he really going to get? In some cases, you know, the older prospects come in and they do improve and they do hit a really high ceiling. Sometimes you get a case like, I don't know, off the top of my head, like Chris Duarte. He was an older prospect coming in, didn't really grow that much in the NBA, and just kind of is a solid role player. So what end of that he ends up on, you can tell me in the comment section below. That does it for me today. What do you think? How do you feel about Dalton Knecht as a prospect? If I'm not mistaken, thinking about the guys that I've covered, he's actually the first college player that I've touched upon, and that would 100% be the case, because to this point, I've done Sar, I've done Buzelis, I've done Ron Holland, and I've done Nikola Topic. So yeah, there's your first college player for you. And while, you know, I think there's a lot of promise with this guy, I think you also kind of understand why I know a lot of people are watching the men's tournament this year at the college level, and why so many eyes were on Caitlin Clark. As a complete aside, like, the women's bracket was so much better than the men's bracket this year. Like, it's not even close. All this being said, thanks for watching the video. If you have any prospects that you want me to cover next, you know the drill, drop it in the comment section below. I'm always reading those for prospect names, and believe me, I've been sifting through the comments. I have like a little kind of queue of players that I want to get to, like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I'll try to obviously get to as many of them as I can, because, you know, when a team is kind of bad like the Raptors are, it's fun doing these, and it's fun looking at these guys and thinking about the future for the team. Yeah, folks, end of the video, you know the drill. Smash that like button, very much so appreciated. Really helps the algorithm, you know that, I tell you that all the time. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Other than that, it's been JJ Buckets. It's been a pleasure, and I will see everybody next time.